Welcome, everybody. We have a very, very exciting episode today, and I'm very thrilled to be joined by two Texas reps who have fled the state of Texas to fight back against this really naked power grab. Thank you all so much for joining me, and could y'all introduce yourself to the audience and what districts you represent?
Thank you for having us. I am Ana-María Rodríguez Ramos, Texas State Representative for House District 102, and the chair of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus.
Gene Wu, state rep out of Houston, District 137, and also the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, or the minority leader in Texas House.
Yeah. Well, it's tremendous to have y'all here, and obviously we're going to be talking about this gerrymandering. But before we get there, I want to sort of talk about like what's not being done in this special session, right? Because there's a lot of really important things that Texans desperately need that are being avoided for this kind of Trump power grab.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that are not being done is so the governor issues a call and he has different priorities on what that call is. And so one of them was flood relief, but we know that the priority was really redistricting. But another one of the issues was essentially allowing bad cops to have cover in the state of Texas, so that these bad cops would not be reported statewide, so they'd be able to apply to other agencies. And so it was just in a bathroom bill and all kinds of other horrible legislation. So the redistricting is just one of the many, many bad pieces of legislation the Republicans were trying to push forward.
So it's not so much of what the public wants that's not being done. It's what the Republican leadership wants that's not being done. Like in terms of what the public actually wants, the only thing the public wants out of the special session is to fix the stuff that was supposed to be done for Kerrville and for all the places that got hit by flooding. We had a bill. The House kicked out a bill almost unanimously. It was a low bill number bill. It was a high priority bill sent over to the Senate and did exactly what these bills are supposed to do in the special session. But we passed it in the regular session. You know what the Senate did on it? What Dan Patrick did with it? Sat on it until it was dead, right? And for the governor to come out and say, well, Democrats are the responsible, like, dude, you could have made this a priority in the regular session. You could have done something about this. And in fact, like Governor Abbott right now could write the check for the money that's requested in that bill today out of his discretionary funds, a fund specifically for these kind of things. He could have that money on their desk this afternoon, but he chose not to because he needs it for politics.
No, I mean, it is frankly shocking. Obviously, Texas politics is pretty difficult for progressives and people on the left who want to fight for working people. But this has been like really extreme. And I want to talk later about like the democracy in this kind of crisis, but we got to talk about this gerrymandering proposal. First of all, this is not a typical time to be redoing districts, right? Second of all, why do you think that Trump and the Republicans are so dead set on gerrymandering Texas districts more?
Well, the truth is they need to pick their voters because they know the voters will not pick them come this midterm election if things stay the way they are. Trump has a failure in his economic policy, but it's also trickled down to Texas. I mean, we are number one state with the most uninsured people in the country. We have the highest maternal mortality rate. They are defunding our education left and right. Our rural hospitals are closing. So they know this is not sustainable. People are really going to wake up, especially with Trump's horrible bill and the impact it's going to make on families. I mean, we know families, for me personally, and many families like mine are struggling to buy groceries, school supplies, school clothes, with school starting here coming up soon, and then Trump's taxes. So with all of this pounding, not to mention Trump's pedophilic friends and Epstein and all of that. And so they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they know that they have to cheat now, because by the time people realize what's going on, if they don't cheat now, it's going to be too late for them.
Yeah, and this is almost not even a D versus R kind of thing, because their own people are pissed at them. Like in Texas, we had so many Republican reps who promised their own people, I won't vote for vouchers, I won't defund your schools, I promise. We fought this for many years, well, I'll never do that. They voted for it because of Donald Trump and because of Greg Abbott. They went and told the communities, hey, I know everyone likes legal THC. It's made everyone's lives better. People enjoy it. And you're freaking adults. I'm not going to vote against that. I'm not going to ban it. They voted to ban it because they were told to do so by the bosses, right? Their free will, their free thinking is gone. And they know that the community they're pissed about this, that you have faithless leaders who lie to your face. And it's not DR. They need to redraw the maps so that they don't get punished by their own people too.
And we know that it was the DC mob bosses, essentially, for these people who wrote these maps, because over and over, who designed these maps, because over and over again, thousands of Texans came to testify on no maps. So there was hearing after hearing after hearing where thousands of Texans waited for hours and hours to testify that they did not want this mid-decade redistricting, this power grab. But we had no maps to look at. And in fact, when we kept asking over and over again, the Republicans, where are the maps? Where are the maps? They didn't know where they were. Yeah. They said they weren't part of this design. Well, it came from D.C. And I did have a couple of Republican friends say, you know what? We didn't draw these maps. They're coming straight from D.C. and Trump's corrupt friends.
Yeah, this is straight from the swamp. This thing is a swamp monster. I mean, Republicans in Texas, as bad as they are, we're not even allowed to look at this thing. We're not allowed to touch it, right? Because, I mean, like, people in the Senate members, Republican members of the House, they were truly like, we have no idea what's going on. And this is how deep in the swamp they are now.
Well, I wanted to kind of ask about this tactic, right? This isn't the first time in recent years that there has been a quorum break. Could you talk about, one, the strategy, why now? Because there's been a lot of really horrific bills and things that they've pushed through before. And also a little bit about, the traditional legality of it as well.
So, and I've got this question a lot. Like, people always, because I was in the last quorum break, and we were both in the last quorum break, and it was brutal. And people say, you didn't get a lot out of that one. Why do this again? Why do this now? And I'm like, we're in a totally different reality now. The world, 5 years later, whatever it is completely different. Things were bad in 21. Things are catastrophic now. People around this country, no matter who you are, you're looking outside, looking at your own lives, and you're watching things fall apart piece by piece. A lot more Americans are losing their jobs. People are going to start losing their homes. It's going to get significantly worse. All the economic indicators that, like, the reason why Trump fired the BLM lady is because the numbers are so god-awful.
And I'll tell you, what's really worrying with that kind of revision that happened there, that typically would mean that it's small business and localities too that we're seeing this kind of crunching, right? Which means, it's probably even worse than we even understand right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. And when you look at his horrible bill, not to mention the numbers that they're fudging, we know this administration is not known for its truthfulness and accuracy. They're all about fudging the numbers. But people feel it. They know it's not fake. They know when they're buying groceries, coffee is more expensive. Yeah. They know cereal is more expensive.
Doubled.
Yeah, and they're budgeting, should I buy a car or just buy the parts that are still more expensive? Yeah. Your beer in your football game, because of the aluminum Trump's taxes, it's going to be more expensive too. People are feeling it. So no matter how much Trump wants to lie about it, people feel it. And we know the truth. Our wallets can feel the truth.
Yeah. No, and you think about it this way. What my epiphany has been that I just realized that, look, for the past 50 years, the people in charge have slowly stolen everything from the American people. They've stolen our good jobs. They've stolen our education. They've stolen our healthcare. They've stolen everything except for one thing left: our power, our voice, our ability to change our future when we don't like what's happening. And they're coming for that right now. This is the last piece that they need to steal to make us irrelevant, to make the American people irrelevant. It doesn't matter who you are. This is bad for Democrats. This is bad for Republicans. This is bad for everybody.
And it actually erases classism, right? Like, this is the one great equalizer when you look at how they're dismantling public education, which has always been known to be the great equalizer. Whether you're middle income, low income, you can all rise to the top with good quality of education. They're stripping that away. They're stripping away health care. But what makes me the same as a millionaire is when we both go vote, our vote means the same thing. Well, now by stripping this and continuing to strip away voting rights and the people's voices, it's giving more power to the rich, and it's going to cause that greater divide where the poor man or the working man is no longer going to have a voice. And so the rich politicians are going to pick their voters, and we will not have a voice to strengthen our public schools, to strengthen our communities.
Yeah, and they've divided us based on race, ethnicity, religion, whatever else they can think of. And they've told all of us we should look at each other with suspicion because, well, we're different. But they've been looking at us this whole time at class, at social class. Like they consider all of us, black, white, everywhere, you're all chumps. And we're going to screw you all over, but we're going to do it by making you fight each other.
You know, I will talk more about the quorum stuff in a second, but while we're talking about this, you know, I'm a Texan. I've spent most of my life under Republican rule. In fact, like the large majority of it. Yeah. You know, we have this program. We talk to people from all over the country, and you know, Texas has people have a view of Texans and Texas as being, you know, very, very conservative. You know, maybe having, you know, kind of social values that aren't very progressive. But that's not the Texas that I know. And one of the things is like, yes, you know, Texas has been run by Republicans for a long time, and a lot of times, like, Republicans win elections. But when you look at polling on things like abortion, on things like guns, on things like education, what we're getting from our government is not reflective of that. So not even just a Democrat versus Republican thing. It's just a question like, what do the Texas people want, and why aren't we getting it?
I mean, I'll say this is, I think what has been done is that the way they're dividing us is saying, like, you have nothing in common with these people over here, despite your commonality in terms of economics. He's saying, like, well, look, they believe different things about abortion. They believe different things about guns and all this other stuff and religion. And you can't possibly be with them. And so we're going to pass all these bills that talk about these things, and you're going to win. We're going to make you win. And every time somebody said on the right says, oh, well, I'm losing my health care. What about that? No, but we got you. We have open carry everywhere. Isn't that enough? And then people say, well, I lost my job. What happened? Am I going to have another job? I said, well, no, we banned books, right? Yeah. And over and over again. Yeah. And
Gulf America, yeah.
And what I think is different is that those people for so long, the MAGAs of the world, who so long have just bought that, okay, if we go jack up trans kids, we go ban drag queens, we ban books, we ban abortion, then everything will be awesome. And now they're realizing, wait, we've done all that. Jobs still suck, wages still suck, I still have no health care, prices are still going up. What the hell? And I think it's now our opportunity to go, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, well, and in addition to that, the reality is the majority of the population in Texas are in the urban areas. We're in the Houston area, this Travis County, Dallas County, and so Bexar County. The majority of Texans are not in these rural areas, but the way they have drawn the lines allows them to take control of the narrative. But the truth is, what we're seeing Republicans do today, trying to bully us, trying to intimidate us, using the fear factor, that has largely worked across our population. They're scaring people so they don't go vote. They're scaring people and threatening them. If you come vote, we're going to arrest you because we're going to claim this and this and that. And so people are scared to go vote. So they have done that, and it's worked. It's worked for almost the last 30 years in Texas.
That's why they keep doing it.
Exactly. But Democrats are saying, fuck off. We're going to push back. And I'm sorry, pardon my language, but we're pushing back. You're not going to get away with it anymore. Yep. And so that's why now they're pushing it up. They're you know, increasing the heat a little bit more. We're taking away your paychecks. Yep. We're coming after you with the FBI. We're doing all of these things. That's what abusive men do. And these are all abusive men. They have abused this population into to being submissive. And, you know, it reminded me, I'm in my community, North Dallas and suburbs. I was a Democrat and they said, you can't run over here. I am a Democrat. They said, you can't run over here. You're a Latina. You have no money. This is Republican territory. No Democrat has won here. You can't do this. And I largely pushed back and I said, I'm going to be a bold, proud progressive. I am going to put that Democrat sign in my front yard. I don't care if my neighbors threaten me. I'm going to push back. I'm going to bully the bully. Yeah. And we did it. And then more neighbors were like, hey, I thought I was the only Democrat. I'm going to put my sign up. And a lot of neighbors were like, no, my neighbors, I'm scared of them. I don't want them to know I'm a Democrat. I won't put my sign up. But we just kept yelling and yelling from the rooftops. It's okay to be a proud progressive, a proud Democrat. And we pushed back and I flipped the seat. And that's what we need to do statewide. Stand up to these bullies.
And I think it's now more important than ever that progressive Democrats should be the ones who are in charge, should be the ones who are pushing out front, because the progressive Democrats have said for ages, talk about jobs, talk about education, talk about health care. And instead, National Democrats like, well, we're going to do this and that, and we're going to placate this people and that. And like, we don't need to pander to the Black community. We don't need to pander to Latinos. Black community, Latino community, Asian community, you know what they want? They want jobs, they want education, and they want health care, right? Stop trying to just feed them bullshit. And instead just say, we're going to give you what everyone deserves: jobs, education, health care.
Well, obviously there's been a lot of support nationally for what y'all are doing. And, this is a Texas story, but it's also a national one. And I have a question for y'all because, one of the big things that we're seeing is, the kind of push to have California and New York and states like that do a similar thing. And I want to ask two questions. One, does that kind of delegitimize the argument that this is wrong to do in Texas, but somehow it's right to do there? And second of all, if that does happen, what does that mean for Texans, right? So if we have a gerrymandering war and more California Democrats are getting elected, how does that help the representation of people in Texas having a voice in Congress?
Well, we both have been on interviews talking about, like, look, nobody wants this. The ideal situation is that it should be nonpartisan for the entire country. Every district, not just Congress, every district in the United States should be done by a nonpartisan commission. But that isn't going to happen. You know why? Because Republicans blocked it every single time. Every state that Democrats took control of, the Republicans were the ones who tried to block nonpartisan commission. And here's the problem. Like Democrats, we've continuously tried to do the right thing. We're always people say, well, we don't want to do what they do because we're not like them. The problem is, like, you got to think about this as like almost like the Cold War. If one side launches nukes and you say, and our side says, well, we don't respond because we're better than that, what's their response going to be? Well, they're just going to throw more nukes over. What we're not saying that California and every place that this kind of redistricting is right, but you bring a gun to a gunfight. You don't bring a pillow to a gunfight, right?
It's an absolutely necessary move. We have to fight fire with fire. Yeah. With this current administration, no one would have envisioned, 5-10 years ago, no one would have imagined people being kidnapped off the streets with American citizens thrown in unmarked vehicles by unmarked individuals being kidnapped and not knowing where they go. No one would have imagined people's complete denial of due process. Like 5 years ago, the Constitution was really strong and no one could have imagined that we would have a dictator wannabe in charge, violating everybody's rights to the extent that he's doing now, and his administration and his party. We have to fight fire with fire. The reality is, it is a new day. And although we've always taken the moral high ground in this space, we have to fight fire with fire.
We don't want to do it. Nobody wants to do it. But given the prospect that if that is not done, if they are not checked, we will never be able to do it. That means that if we can never take back over Congress, if we never take it back over the White House, and they continuously rig the system against the people, we would never be in charge long enough to make those changes, to force nonpartisan redistricting. And again, like the California bill, is very smart. It doesn't redistrict. It says we have pinned here a map that you're not going to like. And this map won't go into effect unless you pass yours. Meaning, just like in the Cold War, we have all our nukes ready. We're not going to launch because we don't attack first, right? Because we think it's wrong to fire nukes. But you say that the moment you fire one over, all of ours go over, right? Mutually assured annihilation.
It's a bleak future, I will say.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
there's no choice. There's no choice because, again, if we go back to this idea that Democrats simply will bring pillows to a gunfight, we're going to lose every single time.
I will say, you know, people that I've been talking to over the past few days outside of Texas, you know, have been very inspired by this quorum break. And I wanted to ask you about the tactic. And first of all, I wanted to ask, you know, how long are y'all willing to stay out? I mean, I know there's a couple weeks on the session, but they'll probably call another one. Will you run out the clock till November?
Look, our commitment for this from the very beginning has been, our group has committed to destroying and killing and ending this corrupt special session. A special session that, while they say on its face, they say, well, we're here to protect the people and help the victims of the flooding and prepare for future mitigation. They didn't even file a goddamn bill until the Monday after we left, after we complained about it at a press conference. Then they filed the bill, right? They didn't even have a first hearing on those bills yet. And so, like, the corruption of this special session is just so much that we had no choice but to destroy it. What the next special session holds, I don't know.
And in a perfect world, Abbott would have some reason and realize that this is completely ridiculous what he's trying to do. I mean, we know the Republicans in Congress have filed a bill saying, hey, we need to stop this. We need to have independent redistricting commissions all over the country. Yeah. In a perfect world, these people would realize that they need to stand down. But we're not dealing with reasonable people. We're dealing with Trump's little punks, right? We're dealing with cowards who are working for Trump. But, you know, when you really look at the grand scheme of things and you scale this all the way back, I'm down to stay out until next year, because what this means when they draw these maps, that means my daughter's health insurance premiums, who just had life-saving transplant less than a year ago, her health insurance premiums under Trump's horrible bill are going to be raised by 75%. Yeah. As a working family, I don't know that I can afford that. And I'm not the only one. We have thousands, if not millions, of people across the country are going to feel these impacts, not to mention the gutting of Medicaid and all of the other horrible economic impacts people are going to face. So we need to do whatever it takes. And in a perfect world, Republicans would have enough pressure from their people to say, hey, you know what? This was a stupid move. We are smart enough to see that now, and we're going to stand down.
But this is why it's so important that you're here. So important that the people who are listening are here, because the only way this changes, the only way that Governor Abbott makes a difference, changes, is enough people just get up and say, we've had enough. Like you've made politics convoluted and difficult to understand, but we understand what's going on now. And we're tired of it. The American people, Texans, have had enough.
Well, I want to talk about this because one of the things that is kind of difficult in progressive political organizing now is this sense of weakness in politics, right? That, like, you know, politics is not a place that it's not something you can engage in to better your life. And in Texas, it's doubly hard. I mean, the Death Star bill was one of the more horrific pieces of legislation just because of what it does. And it really takes away power from people. As we're talking about, Texas is a very urban state. And millions of Texans have not had maybe the representation state level that they might want, but they've been able to elect, local officials who've been able to put forward a lot of very progressive things. All that's under threat. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this kind of like democratic backslide, 'cause I think the gerrymandering is just a part of it. But there's all these other attempts to try to silence Texas voters.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Death Star bill, and Gene and I were definitely fighting it on the House floor when that passed. What that is essentially ripping away the voice from our local democracy. So the beauty of having a local municipality, right, your city council members, your school board members, is if I see you at the grocery store and I'm going to talk to you about the potholes in my roads and the picking up the trash, and you're able, as my city council person, to respond to me directly. And as my school board member, I can hold you accountable directly. I see you in my community. I can go to the community meetings once a week and we can talk about this. What the Republicans have done in Texas is, under the current speaker, is advance what's called the Death Star bill, which is stripping the cities from, and their elected officials, from the power to make decisions that their communities want. So if I want certain things happening in my community, under this Death Star bill, the Republicans are saying, nope, your city council person can't decide. Come to Austin and we'll decide it for you.
And the irony of this is a very good example of how this is really a class economic warfare, right? Because the Death Star bill only benefited the bosses, the company owners.
No, there's no man on the street who's sitting there like, I really hope that I don't have the ability to have water break protection or anything like that.
But if we had gone to white conservative people who are middle class people and saying, hey, Texas is like 105 in the summer. If you're working outside, should you get at least one water break every 4 hours? And everybody goes, hell yes. You better be more than one break every 4 hours, right? Mm-hmm. And you ask them like, well, hey, should there be protections for your paycheck? Like, if a city says like, if you work for our city, you work inside our city, you have to be paid. Should we ban that? I'm like, oh, no, hell no. Why would we do that? Like, over and over again, those kind of issues, if we actually approach people with it, they would say, yeah, we're with the Democrats on this. But we never end up talking about it because the Republicans have us holed up, like pigeonholed to, well, we don't know what you're doing with the trans kids. We don't know about books and all this other stuff. We spent hours arguing about whether books with coarse words and with profanity in it should be banned from libraries. What does that have to do with anything? How does that help anyone or change anything? But we spent hours debating it.
And we don't talk half as much about rent relief for the high housing, how it's not affordable, how we're going to help this homeless population, how we're going to invest in our health care and in our education, how we're going to help those families in the rural communities from their hospitals closing. We don't spend half as much time as that. We spend endless hours on the 10 Commandments in the classroom, but that doesn't put food on my table.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. And I mean, it has been something that has taken away the focus from a lot of real issues that working class Texans face. I wanted to talk a little bit, though, in the last few minutes about just the culture of Texas politics right now. I mean, y'all have been threatened with expulsion. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when y'all broke Quorum, you knew they were going to make a big stink about it. You knew they were going to talk tough. Have you been kind of surprised at what they're willing to do here? Their response is 10 times what it was in 21. Mm-hmm. They have ramped up much higher levels, much faster. And what that shows you is actually their level of desperation. Mm-hmm. Because on one hand, you got Trump like just going straight up there asking, where's my 5 seats, right? On the other side, they're seeing what we're doing, and they're seeing the entire country start to turn against them. Not just Texas. Like, we are sparking something that is spreading across the United States, that Democrats in California are standing out, Democrats in Illinois are standing out, and not just Democrats, but just average-ass people are just saying, we've had enough. They're right. The Democrats are right. We're tired of the people who lie, cheat, and steal from us.
And this corrupt power grab, which is what they're trying to push, people, and as Chairman Wu said, are waking up. Working families across America are waking up. Once again, they're seeing the connection between this corrupt power grab and the long-term implications of their kitchen table issues. They're seeing the connection like, holy crap, what they're doing in Texas, it does affect me in Idaho. It does affect me in Minnesota. It does affect me in Wisconsin. Yep. I can start seeing those prices going up. There is a connection here. I'm going to call my representative and say, what the heck are you doing? My Social Security is at risk. My Medicaid is at risk. Like, this is bigger than Texas. We need to make sure that you don't do this here.
And so one of the ways they're going to distract from that is to get you to stop talking about that and get you to talk about, what about, well, Abbott filed this thing in the Supreme Court. Let's talk about that instead. And let's spend another 5 hours talking about that. Paxton did this in Illinois. Paxton did that in California. Let's spend some time talking about that. It's all nonsense garbage done solely to distract. Because, again, the Abbott stuff is he's the wrong person, he filed it in the wrong place, and he filed it in the wrong way, right? The Paxton stuff, filing in California, Paxton may have committed an actual crime because he is not licensed to practice law in California. And he filed that without getting permission in California to file as an attorney. The Illinois one, every attorney that I have shown that to, his filing in Illinois, just gut-busting laughter. Don't fall for the distractions. They're trying to do anything they can to change the narrative from the people are waking up and demanding change to, well, what about this interesting, shiny thing over here?
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I like what you're saying a lot. I'll just say really quick. A few days after the election, after Trump beat Kamala Harris, I was passing through Johnson City. There was an older woman working behind the counter. And it's one of those things that you hate to see because you just hope that somebody, when they get to that age, they're able to retire and not have to work, wage jobs like that. But she was talking to someone else, and she was saying that when Trump gets elected, I hope that the first thing, so when he takes office, I hope the first thing he does is lower the price of groceries because I really need that. And I know he lied. We all agree on that. But that was somebody who said, I'm having material suffering, difficulty, and she's selecting the Republican. And that's happening all across Texas. And I know we talk a lot about jobs. We talk a lot about these things. But there is a lot of people who are saying they're voting for Trump on these quote-unquote issues. So what is it that Democrats need to do better to be able to gain the trust of those people so that when they're feeling economic pain, they're saying, I want to vote this way to deal with it?
The truth is, and Chair Wu and I were speaking about it, and the truth is, I think most Democrats are waking up to the fact that we have been we went down the rabbit hole of talking about these other issues and not really the issues of what we've always stood for, which is working families, which is a vibrant community, which is thriving families. We kind of we swayed away from that to talk about these other issues. But we need to go back to framing the truth is of the base of our party, which is helping working families. And so, unfortunately, that message was lost this past election cycle and possibly ones prior to that. And
let me say a couple of things. One, in terms of, and I'm glad you brought up this example because this is something that I think we need to have a serious conversation on with people on the left. There is a great desire from just because we're so angry to tell these people, haha, told you so, suck it, right? That is the wrong response. The right response is, it's not very nice to be lied to, is it? I'm sorry you were lied to and that, that you were in this position. But are you ready to fight? Now that you're awake, are you ready to join us? That should be the right answer, right? Every single time. Saying like, I want to tell you, I told you so, but I'm not going to because it is more important for us to fight back and to save our country while we can than for me to get that one little bit of endorphins to say, I told you so, right?
And this quorum break is about that lady. It's about that lady, the 60-year-old who's working in a gasoline station because she needs to pay for her medication. It's about that mom who's trying to balance her budget right now to figure out, is she going to be able to buy another little T-shirt or does she have to save that money for gas to go to work. It's about that dad who's figuring out, should I change the oil on my car now, or can I go ahead and buy another one because I don't know when and how fast these prices are going to increase because my wages are not increasing. This quorum break is about all of those working families, about their children, so that they can have that brighter future to say, you know what, mom and dad, I saw you struggle through those times, but I have a quality education. We have good health care. There is a better future for all of us, to lift all of us. So what we're doing today in Illinois is for all of those working families across America. Pay attention. This fight is your fight too.
And the one thing I always tell Democrats is like, look, there's a reason people voted for Trump, right? Because whether the people actually believed him or not, he was the candidate that consistently talked about, I care about your grocery prices. I care about your wages. I care about all this stuff. Now, granted, it was all a lie. And people might have thought, well, maybe he's lying, maybe he's not. But we would rather take the chance on somebody who's at least talking about it than not. And I know it's stupid, but I'm going to bring up like the Sydney Sweeney thing, right? Mm-hmm. We had this big controversy, Sydney Sweeney. That's manufactured outrage. The right is manufacturing it because it is a fun and interesting distraction that divides us on culture instead of economics, right? And most people are like, what the hell are we talking? Why are we having this massive public fight about Sydney Sweeney's ad campaign? Who cares? And the thing that I want Democrats and progressives to remember is, do not fall for the distractions. Do not engage in it. If you like it, you don't like it, who gives a shit? Let's go back and talk about jobs, education, and healthcare every single time, right? Don't charge into that debate. Like people want to just charge in the debate. Oh, I have an opinion on this. Who gives a shit?
Well, Representatives, thank you all so much, for taking the time, to speak with us. Before we go, I just wanted to give you all the opportunity, if there's anything that you'd like to say to the audience or anything that you want them to kind of be paying attention to or keeping up with over the next few weeks as this fight continues.
I would say to everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for being aware of what's happening. But reach out to your own representatives. Whatever state you're in, this is an economics issue. It is neighbor helping neighbor, or us being taken control over by corporate greed. And the big cheating, this big party that we know is not about working class families. It's not about us. So I encourage everybody to reach out to your representative. You're saying, I'm not from Texas. This doesn't affect me. It does. Look at what this bill, the Trump's horrible bill, is going to do to your family. We know everybody kind of has already an idea. This is about all of us. And this is the fight back to stop this from affecting us for generations to come. Join the fight with us because we're in this fight together.
No, absolutely. And, Ana-María is a lot nicer than me. And I want to just tell people, everyone get fucking pissed. Right? It's time to get pissed. This is, for 50 years, they have been slowly stripping apart everything that made us great, right? And there is only one thing left for them to take, and that is our power, and they're coming for it. And if you're like me, if you're like Ana-María, and you're just tired of the people who lie, cheat, and steal getting ahead, that they win this every single time, and the people who work hard and follow the rules are the ones who are left holding the bag. If you are sick of that, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or nothing. Get off your ass and do something. Get off your ass and fight. Organize your community. Talk to your friends and neighbors and get them pissed. Because this is it. This is the end. This is the final level. This is the end boss. If we do not fight and win, it is game over. Because once politicians no longer care whether people vote or not, once it doesn't matter if you vote or not, there's no democracy left. The republic has fallen. Because once elected officials no longer give a crap about the voters and the voice of the people, and they just do whatever they want. They will do whatever their bosses tell them to do, whether it's a blue state or a red state. It's bad for everybody. It is the end of America.
Well, thank you both for taking the time and coming out here. It means a lot.
Oh, yeah.